Our guest today is Tracy Thornton. And Tracy is the leader of a steel band by the name of Pan Rock. And ladies and gentlemen, you'll enjoy this discussion. Tracy, welcome to Caribbeana, my friend.
I appreciate you having me on. I'm very excited about this one.
Thanks. Well,
Uh,
listen, tell us about, when I heard about Pan Rock, what is this? I was shocked, and then I got exposed to what you were doing and saw the size of the bands and so forth. Tell us
uh-huh.
about this story. I have to, my engineer, Brian Bernard, my co-host, he told me about it and I couldn't believe, but when I went and looked and listened, I said, man, we got to have this guy on.
Uh-huh.
So
Awesome.
tell us your story, man.
Well, with the Pan Rocks, that's kind of where it started. Grew up a rock and roll drummer. I'm from North Carolina here in the States, and I've been playing drum set since I was 3. And as soon as I graduated high school, I hit the road with some rock and roll bands, and I didn't even know what a steel pan was at the time. This was back in the mid '80s,
Right.
and then, long story short, on the side, I used to perform and I studied West African drumming with a guy named Khalid Salim when the Chuck Davis African American Dance Ensemble came down
Oh,
and relocated from New York to Durham,
right.
North Carolina. And we had a steel drum band open up for us, which was actually Mark Ford's steel band, who's at North Texas State now, but he was at ECU at the time, East Carolina. It's like, man, I would really love how to do that.
Right,
And
right.
like I'd never heard a steel band in person, and they were a small thing, like 7 or 8 players.
Right, right.
As we were just discussing, I found a pan through Jim Boyce in Charlotte,
Uh,
North Carolina, a Mike
yeah,
Enoch pan,
yeah.
to see if I could do it. I never learned how to read music. I never studied music. Again, I was just pounding drums in rock and roll bands, and
Right,
found out I had an ear and a knack for it, and fell. And then what really turned me on the pan was hearing the Sanch recordings of all the panorama, because you hear the yellow
right,
birds,
right, right,
when
right.
I heard that big panorama sound,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was Pan by Storm by Professor. And
Right.
to me, I always tell this to everyone, that just sounded like a rock and roll song, the way the pulse was, the
Yes.
energy. And so I fell in love with Pan with the big sound, coming to how I like to put together the big bands.
Yeah.
And and then my tie to Ellie Minette was I'd met him through an apprentice of his book before I even played Pan. He used to come through North Carolina, him and Kathy from
Right,
Days
right, right. Yeah.
and so I went up to one of his workshops in '94 just to see if I could do it. I had no
Yeah.
idea. And Professor was going to be there. And of course, my favorite arranger. I went up, I was a total beginner, put myself in all the advanced bands and flourished, met Professor, became friends with him, and he invited a couple of us the next year to come play
Right,
in Panorama. So we took him up on it. So '95 was my first pilgrimage to Trinidad, and we played with Potential. That was when he was a Potential Symphony.
right, right.
So I did that the next few years, and since '95, I've been coming back and forth to Trinidad. I didn't play this year. I played last year with Boogsy in Phase Two. Boogsy's a
Right,
good,
right,
and
right,
that's a whole nother story with what I do with Phase Two and all that kind of thing behind the
right.
scenes. But that's kind of it in a nutshell. And then, of course, 2013, 11 years ago, I was like, let's see if the kind of music that I know and that I
Right,
like
right,
works with the steel band. And
right.
I put on a concert in Akron, Ohio. We had like 150 players to get that
Yeah.
big sound,
Right,
and people liked it, and that's kind of how it was born, and I've been doing that ever since.
right, 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 right. Well, and you, all the players in your band, you train them, man. They're all familiar with it and so on.
Well, how I build my bands is I've been working since 2007 or 8 as a guest artist, going to different schools around the country.
Yes.
So I have a Rolodex of all the pan players here in the States. So when I put on projects wherever they are in the country, like say if they're in Los Angeles, I'll call up my core group of people that kind of get what I do and like the music.
Yeah.
I'll invite them, and then I'll find out, okay, if I'm in this part of the country, I can reach out to these players. A lot of them are band directors,
Right,
and
right.
they might know players. So Pan Rocks is myself, but it's kind of like this. it's a different band every time I perform, depending on what part of the country or world I'm in. So I would just
Right,
put together the group. If they
right,
allow me 25 players, great. If they'll give me 150, I'll
right.
call up 150, and normally we can fill the bill. So
This is
it's
amazing.
crazy.
But you know, it also reminds me of Ellie, how he traveled the United States with the same thing, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and it's amazing to see how it embraces so many people. Did you find that shocking for you?
The thing that I found, it's not shocking because I got into Pan. I kind of consider myself, what am I, like third generation? You know, you had the Ellies, and then you had like the Norells and these guys. So I'm a little
Right,
bit younger.
right.
So I've kind of seen it come in the last 20 years that I've really been at it really full time.
Yes,
But what doesn't shock me, but what really gets me excited is that with the kind of music that I do and the kind of people and the kids that relate to it, and the reason I do this is to just
yeah,
try to inspire kids and to get them into music if they don't want to play in a band in school or whatever.
right.
But it's the small towns, and I'm usually in small town America. You know, I'm in the big cities and all that, but I can be in towns you've never heard of, and you're
Yeah.
like, why am I going to this? Why am I going to New Philadelphia, Ohio? Have you ever heard of that place? And then you go to their school, and there are
Yeah,
50 kids in the middle band. There's 50 kids in the high school band. There's 100 people in the community band. We just had Jonathan Moffett, Michael Jackson's drummer, Madonna's drummer, come perform with us in this small town in Ohio this
right.
spring,
Yeah,
and I'm using that town as an example,
yes.
but it's really amazing how Pan has taken over not just schools but communities, and people aren't even aware of it.
Right, but this is what I'm saying. I mean, it's amazing, you know. I mean, especially for people in Trinidad who, where Pan was born,
Mhm.
don't have a clue at the extent of this movement, you know. I mean,
It's amazing. Here in the States is huge, and it's a little bit more academia. Usually, you find your bands in schools that I work with. Of course, you have the scene in Brooklyn and
right,
DC, Maryland, and then Miami and places like that.
yeah,
But but then I've been to Japan, I've been to New Zealand, Australia. A lot more, that's more community type bands. You know, you have
right,
the scene in Europe. I was one of the judges for their panorama in Europe last year, the French panorama,
yeah,
and I was introduced to that scene, of course, vir- virtually because I
right, right,
because
right,
of COVID.
yeah.
But it's really amazing what it's doing, and man, I'm sure you know what's going on in Japan. I mean, it's
This is what I would like to get in touch with somebody from Japan, man, because I'm
I'll give you a
finding
couple of
them.
names because it's flourishing out there, man, and they're doing the thing. It's impressive. So
Yeah, man. Yes, yes, yes. I'm really pleased, you know, I'm really happy to hear this, you know, and so yeah, I mean, you know, do you find young kids are attracted to it as much as the elder senior kids?
more so, I
Mm,
think more so. A lot of schools they'll kind of come up in middle school age. So let's say you're 10 or 11 years old and you're kind of introduced to it, and
yeah,
then they can see what their older friends are doing in the high school bands.
right, right,
And again, kind of like how Andy Norell's father brought Ellie up here, to kind of get kids off the street in Brooklyn.
right, right,
I started in Greensboro, North Carolina, doing the same thing at the projects here, and we
right,
put together a band called Sons of Steel, the
yeah,
original Sons of Steel.
right, right.
We were the most torn steel band in the country for three
Yeah,
years.
I remember hearing them. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
we used to play at Ellie's Camp. We used to open up for Masha Montano, and we did the whole thing. We played Disney. We traveled all over the country. We had a school because the kids were 8 to 14 years old. But
Yes,
that was kind of a precursor back around the turn of the century, what is to come with the scene that's going on now with all the kids in schools.
yeah,
But we were just a community band, just trying to give kids something positive to do. So steel pan is such a beautiful tool for
yeah.
that, as you know. But
Right,
then with the history of it in Trinidad as well,
right,
and
right, right.
Ellie and those guys coming up. But also there's a lot of kids that might want to express themselves musically that they don't have that chance. Maybe they don't want to be a flute player or a clarinet
Yeah,
player or
right,
a tuba
right,
player.
right, right,
They might not, those instruments might not speak to them, but when you get them on a pan, and then if someone like me comes in and gives them a music that they're familiar with, that
right,
they
right.
relate to,
Yeah.
Then I could go in there, we can do the Pan Rocks thing, but once I'm done, they're cooked, and then I get to talk to them about Trinidad. I get to tell them about Boogsy and Liam and,
Yeah.
you know, all the, the whole thing, and
Yeah.
then they go down the rabbit hole. And so I kind of consider myself as like a, I open the door so you can go where I
Right,
want.
right, right,
I can
right,
catch
right.
them with something that they're familiar with, and then it's beautiful to see. Like if I've worked with kids for the last few years and they end up going to study under Liam and really take this thing, or they go to
Yes, yes.
Trinidad and study with
Yeah,
me at
yeah,
UTT,
yeah.
then I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah,
I've
man.
changed a few lives for the better.
This is great, man. So I mean, the concerts, I understand the concerts are very large, well attended, and
That's another thing with doing what I do here in the States is with the parents that, they know the music like the Led Zeppelins or the Metallicas or these
yeah,
rock bands that they grew up on. So they get to engage as well. And for an example, like I was talking about the small town New Philadelphia in Ohio,
right.
I started going there 12 years ago. There were 14 kids in the band, the whole band. Now there's over 100 kids, but we started a community band because all the parents and grandparents and cousins and brothers and sisters wanted to be a part of it. Now that group is up to 100 people, and we have to split them in half. And
Yeah,
they usually open up the concert, so it gives them an outlet to be a part of the
right,
thing. But what we do find is when we do these concerts, and sometimes if we can get a big name like Jonathan Moffat, the drummer for Michael Jackson that played,
right, right, right.
if you're not in Japan, they might want to come see Jonathan Moffat, and then indirectly they're exposed to Pan, and then they leave.
Yes, yeah,
So that's the whole idea. That's why I'm in LA all the time, kind of getting
yeah.
some of these rock stars attached to it to get their people into what we're doing.
Right, 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 right. Man, that's great, man. It's a wonderful experience, I would imagine, of the steel and strings and through the pan rocks concept.
Yeah, that was a dream come true concert. To perform with Mark Wood, the original violin player for Trans Siberian Orchestra.
Yeah,
Well, when you say experience, and I never thought about this, but when I started back in 2016, 17, attaching myself to a lot of these famous rock and roll guys, I was like, I really would hope they would want to do what we're doing because they don't know what we're doing. But
yeah,
what all of them say after they've done recording sessions or performances with us, that they've never experienced music like that. So we're giving these guys who have sold millions of records
right, right, right,
an experience that they never dreamed of, and they all come out of it. Hey man, if you need me again, give
right,
me a call if they're available. So it's been a positive on their side as well, and I get to turn
right,
that
right,
into perform.
right,
So it's been a beautiful thing as well.
right, 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 right. Well, listen, man, it's a pleasure talking to you. So whenever do you think you'd be coming on this side of the East Coast? I mean.
Well, I'm based out of North Carolina, and my travels kind of are dictated by who invites me, like the
Okay,
schools or
all right.
programs want me to come
Yeah.
in. Now you're up in DC, Maryland area.
Right, 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 right.
So I'm hoping to come up. I talk to Sherwin all the time,
Yes.
and that crowd up there, and really, we talk behind the scenes a lot. So I do know what's going on out
Right.
there, and I've done
Okay.
some mixing and things for some of their recordings.
Right.
But I haven't been up there in quite a while, so hopefully, that and the whole East Coast corridor up there.
Yes,
Going to New
yes,
York and
yeah,
Boston.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
if anybody wants to call me, holler. Have a great time. So, but I find
Yeah.
myself out in California a lot.
Right.
Ohio, Michigan, Texas. I've been back and forth to Trinidad the past couple of years.
Yeah.
So,
All
and
right.
next year's going to open up a little bit. I was just in Canada, and then next year hopefully it's going to be
Right.
Europe, hopefully New
Well,
Zealand,
with
maybe.
with with World Steel Pan Day coming up in August,
Yes.
you do specific things or so?
No, I was supposed to come down this year and hang out with my friends Avis and Kareem, who just won with Unistars a couple of
Yeah.
days ago.
Yeah.
And but time and money, and there's some things going up here that's keeping me here. So hopefully next year I'll be down. But as of right now, I don't have any plans to come down. Maybe in December, but it just my schedule's an ever moving thing, and we'll see. Hopefully, it's a good thing
Sure.
to be busy, but I would love to spend more time in Trinidad, especially And then festival coming up on the 24th of August as well. I would really love to be there for that, but it'll have to wait till next year, hopefully.
Right. All right, Tracy, it's a pleasure talking to you, man. And I look forward to actually seeing you guys in function one day. And
100%.
yeah, so I just want to say good luck and keep on flowing.
Thank you. Well, it's Panjumbi's got me. I'm a lifer, and I can't. I'm really, really grateful that I'm in the world and the community. So
Right.
it's not a bad
Okay,
place to be.
sure. I've been speaking with Tracy Thornton, and he is the leader of the steel band called Pan Rock. This is Von Martin. Caribbeana continues.